Thank you guys very much for tuning in to Locally Live.
Yes.
We have our very next guest tonight, and it is actor, filmmaker Eric Schumacher. How are you doing tonight?
I'm well. I'm very glad to be here tonight. It's an honor.
We're happy you're here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about, just about yourself at first.
Well, I'm an actor and a filmmaker. I've been working at it most of my life. I'm deeply passionate for it, and I just have a constant flow of activity going on around me on both sides of that frame. So I mean, my life is acting and filmmaking.
Nice. So,
When did you start? What was your first thing?
Well, I guess you could say that I started about the time I could talk.
Okay.
I was raised by a family of actors, and so my dad tells this story. When I was about 3 years old, we were in Los Angeles as he was pursuing his acting career, and he was on.
It's in the family.
It's very much in the family.
Okay.
And my mom and dad are both actors, and apparently, and I vaguely remember pieces of this. He was auditioning in a large theater for a Shakespeare play, and he was doing Alas Poor Yorick, the monologue with the skull. And my mom and I had accompanied him to the audition. I was sitting in the theater, and for some reason something caught his eye, and suddenly he looked into the audience, and I was gone. And then he looked in front of him, and I was standing on the stage in front of him, locked, looking at him. And so he put the skull down and recited the rest of the monologue to me. And that was when he knew I had the bug.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
That is awesome. So, who were some of your inspirations, obviously, besides your parents?
Gosh, so many. I've had a lot of really wonderful teachers and mentors who I think have been my initial inspirations. One was a wonderful actor by the name of Paul Mantee, who mentored me a bit, and he passed away a couple of years ago. I studied voiceover with a number of wonderful people, most notably studied cartoon voiceover with Lucille Bliss, who was the voice of Smurfette on the Saturday morning cartoons for NBC. I mean, those are the more notable, people who people might recognize, but a ton of other people who are equally as amazing. And then, of course, just inspirations in terms of. I'm always fascinated by actors who disappear into their characters. So people like Spencer Tracy, Ed Harris, those kinds of actors who, they're just those people.
Yeah, they embody the
so,
character for sure.
So there's just a few of the inspirations I've had, but there've been many, 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 many.
Awesome. Can you talk about any maybe current projects that you're working on?
Well, I have a lot of current projects going on. Most at the moment are things that are in post-production or starting to go through their film festival runs, and then a lot of things that we are in the process of developing on the filmmaker side. There's a few offers floating around as an actor, and we're fielding those. Short list in terms of things that are on their way to coming out soon. Well, of course, Tombstone Rashomon just came out on Fandor. That was directed by Alex Cox, who most people would know from Sid and Nancy and Repo Man, films like that. And a number of wonderful actors were in that. I had the honor of playing Doc Holliday.
Awesome.
Really?
It was and that was quite for me personally. It was again a lot of lovely actors who I loved working with, but it was a particularly exciting opportunity because I had a year before played Wyatt Earp on a national television show, and so from an artistic standpoint, not only was it an exciting opportunity, but from an artistic standpoint, I was able to play these two people who had many people believe been close friends and had a very strange friendship. They were very different people, so playing both sides of that coin was fascinating. And working with some wonderful cast and crew on both projects. And then soon to hopefully come out, we have a feature film, Revenge of Zoe, geek culture comedy, feature film, The Irish Goodbye, which I performed in, short called The Quest coming up, El Patron the Master, to be released as a series. It's a narco crime drama. My Stolen Time Machine has been in post-production for some time. It's a fairly long sci-fi comedy drama web series that I directed, and a lot more.
So you're doing so much.
That's a lot. That's
how
awesome.
how do you separate them and learn your lines and differentiate between your characters?
Well, mind you, many of the things I mentioned are things that I may not have actually been on screen on, and other things I have been. But I have been under that pressure where you've got a couple of things going on at once, and in the initial stage, there's a great deal of cussing. As I'm trying to learn the lines and get into character, because I am also one of those actors who I just try to completely become the character, so I'm often stuffing myself into a form that isn't me, and it's a difficult but really fascinating and a process I'm addicted to, I suppose you could say. And then ultimately there's a point where I find the character. and they exist in me, and so when I start to and then there's that point where in the line learning process, especially if the script is written well, then it's easy to separate between the two, because one character could not say this and one character could not say that. So it all starts to, after a great deal of pushing and pulling, it starts to flow naturally.
Awesome. So one last question. If you weren't an actor, what do you think you'd be doing?
That's actually rather impossible to answer. I mean, I do direct and produce, so that's also within the industry side of things. But it's not to be rude, but that's kind of like asking me, if you weren't breathing, what would you be doing?
I get it. I get it.
It's integral to what I am, and it's so much a part of my life that I can't. To put it this way, when I'm not on set performing for a long enough period of time, I start to slowly lose my mind. So I really can't think of anything else that I could be doing.
Awesome. Well, that's kind of what I was asking right there. Well, I want to let everybody know where they can find some of your stuff online, where they can get in touch with you.
Well, I'm all over social media. Most of the main social media is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc., and so on and so on. Pretty easy to find. And you can also, if you want to get a quick view, there's EricSchumacherFilm.com, which we try to update pretty often. My small production group that I'm a partner in, SeelyStudios.com. That website is being updated as we're working a very different business model than we've had in the past, and we're about to relaunch some very exciting things that we hope will be very beneficial to Southern Arizona in particular.
It all works well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So those are some places.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. It sounds like there's a lot of exciting things coming up. So this has been Eric Schumacher, and I just want to end, guys, and let you guys know that we're going to be back with more stuff, more people, more actors, more musicians, more artists. Thank you for tuning in to our first episode of Locally Live. Thank you all the bands and all the people that came onto this show. Thank you, Eric, for being here.
Pleasure.
And thank all of you. Thank our crew and our cast. You guys rule, and we will see you next time. Yeah!